Review what I want to talk about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One thing that I think we've lost in medicine is our sense of role. Well, one of his statement, no other than Mr. Todd Joy. Welcome, Mr. Todd on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with your audience. I'm a physician trained in interventional orthopedics, anesthesiology. I've been treating patients for 25 years with joint and spine pain and sciatica type issues. And over the past 25 years, early on in my career, I was focusing on trying to fix problems, trying to determine what pain generators were, to advise patients on surgery, to try to help joint pain, help spine pain. And while those were effective, I found out recently that they've been only helping more lately short term. And patients were not getting the long term benefit that they used to get from interventions that I was doing. These are mainly steroid shots, and patients had the options of physical therapy or steroid shots or surgery, and those just weren't sustainable options for people. And patients were coming to me and they wanted more than symptom relief. They really wanted their lives back. And so I started doing a deep dive into how to restore function for patients. That's what life really is, and these problems is about trying to restore function. And that you could not do that by treating parts of the body in isolation. That you had to treat the body as a whole, and that's the way the body works. Is that whether it's stress or sleep or inflammation or energy or brain fog or arthritis or joint pain, those things all need to be connected together because they all intersect. And so my shift has happened into systems-based care and listening to patients and what they are having trouble doing and trying to restore that function by addressing the root problem.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Todd. Thank you. And today let's talk about why do surgery and aesthetic outcomes depend on internal health. So tell us, if your face is reflection of your internal health, why you the most aesthetic treatments start with the surface and never look deeper?
So there's a big emphasis now on aesthetics. I think people are starting to take better care of themselves. These aesthetic procedures are great. They're expensive. Um, and what we've discovered is that as good as microneedling is, or as Botox is, or plastic surgery procedures and facelifts and those types of things, that they're not as helpful as you want them to be in isolation. You know, surgery and aesthetics really are controlled controlled injuries, um, and that healing depends on all these systems. It depends on your immune system, depends on your circulation, depends on your metabolic function, depends on your hormones, depends on proteins, depends on diet. All these things are critical for that. And if those systems are not optimized, you're not going to get the outcome that you want out of that procedure when you've paid a lot of money to have this stuff done. And so when you don't address these things, complication rates increase, your outcomes fall because your body is not optimized before that. And whether it's an aesthetic procedure or a knee replacement, you've got to go into these procedures preparing the body for them. Now, some of these procedures are emergency type procedures, and that's hard to control. That's why it's important to stay on top of your overall health and be preventative throughout your life. But in these controlled instances where these are elective surgeries, you have time to plan to get the body prepared for the procedure, prepared for the surgery, and then you have a much better outcome afterwards. You're happier, the surgeon's happier, you have less complications, your family's happier because you're not having post-operative complications, and everybody gets on to their life better and you function better.
Definitely, you function better. So, Mr. Todd, you said the aesthetic industry has it backwards, treating faces instead of people. Where in life are you applying external fixes to problems that actually need internal solutions?
Well, we're always applying external fixes to problems that patients have because a lot of times that's what becomes evident to patients. That's what causes them to seek out medical care to begin with. Um,
Mm,
is oftentimes a so-called external problem. It could be in the case of aesthetics. I don't like the way my skin looks, or my skin sagging, or I've got spots, or I've got bags under my eyes, or whatever, or I need a knee replacement because I can't do things that I want to do. I can't exercise. I can't ride a bike. I can't play with my grandkids. I can't go skiing. So, um, so those are kind of external things. It's no different than if you go see the doctor because your nose is running. Well, that's an external problem, and it's a symptom that then causes us to go see a doctor to get care. And then once you see people like us, then we take that symptom and dig deeper to find out and help you determine what the cause of that symptom is to try to address it.
very well said. Mr. Todd, are you treating the wrinkle or are you treating a hormonal decline, inflammations, and nutrients deficiency that created the wrinkle in the first place?
Yeah, all that. Um, the skin is a very dynamic structure. It requires collagen. It has fibers like elastin, along with the collagen, and these this skin structure is very important for resiliency. Um, just like a rubber band, you stretch a rubber band, it tightens back to its original shape. If that rubber band's old, it's not going to hold its shape again. And so the skin is flexible, and so you have to do things throughout your life to help your skin function properly. And a lot of that is diet, it's exercise, it's not smoking. Um, Drinking can be a problem. It's the proper amino acids and supplements to get your skin um, performing optimally. And so wrinkles are just a byproduct of that. There's nothing, you know, inherently wrong with wrinkles, but there are a lot of things we can do to fix it. And if you're going to fix wrinkles, then it's much better to try to, as I said before, to get the body, all these systems working together, your immune system, your metabolic function, your mitochondria, um, and the cells of your body to be able to fix you. Your body has millions of cells in them. Your cells are tasked with making your body more efficient at what it does because your cells can fix you if your cells get the proper information, if they get the proper support to do their job.
Mr. Todd, if your internal terrain is deteriorating, how long do you really expect internal treatments to last, and what point does the mess live?
Um, the internal, so treatments for these problems can um, can follow the traditional medical model. That still works for people. Surgeries are still very effective for people. Um, Aesthetic surgeries are very effective for people. Um, it's just that our bodies are having more chronic disease. Our healthcare system, the way it's structured currently, is very good at treating emergency problems and emergency care. We're the best place in the world for that. But chronic disease, we are not so great at. And that's where most of the illnesses are these days, are these chronic diseases. So it's not that these external fixes and traditional medicine are not the answer. Um, we prefer to look at it along the lens of we can complement traditional medicine by helping dive down into these root cause issues that are leading to so much chronic disease, whether it's arthritis or cancer or dementia and Alzheimer's or autoimmune disease and gut dysfunction. All those things are critically important to get a handle on. And traditional medicine just, sadly is not taking care of that for most people.
It challenges a model that profits from the repeat treatments. If a provider helps need or less product over time, are they shooting themselves in the foot or building something more valuable?
You mean a provider's building something more valuable?
Yes, please.
Um, the goal of the goal of what we do is, and what I do is actually to have patients rely less on me. There's a whole lot of education that goes into uh, what we do and people that practice medicine the way that I do. And there's a really heavy education burden on that I put on myself to educate patients about their problems so that then they can go out and handle their problems without me. There's a whole lot of teaching going on. That's one of the problems with traditional medicine is these visits are only 10 minutes long and it gets really hard and physicians are disincentivized um, to educate patients because they don't get reimbursed for that through a hospital system or through an insurance-based care. And so when you supplement traditional medical care with these types of visits and these types of functional medicine and cellular type of visits, that we're able to spend much longer times with patients to educate them so that then they can take care of themselves. My job's always, uh, I think, been to do everything I can to get someone better and then the least I can to keep them there. So um, patients will do that, and other patients will keep coming back monthly to keep learning more, and we'll handle things really however the patient wants. But there's a combination there between all that stuff that patients can come in repetitively, or if we do a good job teaching them, we won't see them as often.
Mm, very well said. Mr. Todd, if estrogen is directly responsible for collagen production, skin thickness, and wound healing, were any premenopausal and menopausal women having their hormones optimized before receiving injectables or surgery?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to do that. Hormones are critically important these days. There was a study that came out about 20 years ago. It was called the Women's Health Initiative, and it studied hormones. And it published these results, which really scared a lot of people into not taking hormones and scared a lot of physicians into not prescribing them. And so women in particular went years without getting proper hormone replacement. And of course, the media picked that up and ran with it. And all of a sudden, there were not many women taking hormones. And then, let's see, about 2 years ago, they looked at the data again and realized that it had been interpreted incorrectly. And they discovered that, lo and behold, hormone replacement is actually very good for you, that it is anti cancer, that it prevents arthritis, that it prevents Alzheimer's, that it helps with mental health. So um, the difference was that the hormones that were studied a couple of years ago were just bioidentical hormones. The study 20 years ago looked at bioidentical hormones plus synthetic hormones. And it turns out it's the synthetic hormones that were causing the problems with cancer um, that led to all the scares about stopping hormones. But under proper medical supervision, hormones are critical. As a matter of fact, the weight loss craze right now using the GLP-1 medications is they're very effective, but and a ton of people are on them. But the patients that get the best results from a weight loss program are people who have had their hormones optimized first, and that can take 6 to 9 months or so of of getting those checked and adjusted properly. But hormones are critical, and I've talked about women, but men too. We're finding a lot of adolescents, a lot of young adults in their 20s who are low on hormones. And that speaks to, I think, to our society as a general in the food supply, in the toxins we're facing every day, the pesticides, the plastics that we ingest, that we're finding young adults with very low hormones. And so they're critical for all those reasons. So, yeah, um, even having an aesthetic procedure for skin health and wrinkles, you need to have optimal hormones. And the other thing with that is that doctors are too used to telling patients that their lab values are normal, and patients are accepting that too often. When your doctor tells you, don't worry about your estrogen or your testosterone or your vitamin D or your thyroid, that those levels are normal. But, normal is a wide range of values. And patients should get back to their doctors and say, okay, I understand that my lab value is normal, but what's optimal? That's what you really should be asking, because normal lab values put you in a category of people that are sick. And so you really want those to be optimal. Um, and that's a
Mm.
critical conversation to have, whether it's hormones or whether it's any other lab values that you get. Patients need to be aware of that to find out what is the optimal level for them.
Mr. Todd, for both men and women, testosterone influences skin thickness and muscle tone. Are you losing structural support because your hormones are declining and no one thought to check?
Yeah, that kind of goes to what I said before. With that is to get those checked, because if you have underlying issues with skin thickness, as you said, or skin repair, that that's going to be on a patient's mind. That may be what sent them to the doctor. But if you can look at hormones and check them and get them optimized, that is not only going to help the skin, but it's also going to help all these other organ systems that I just talked about. And so you're going to get a much better use of your money, um, and a much broader benefit by, and sort of, bang for the buck, so to speak, if you get the hormones figured out before you start looking at other things that can be done, whether it's the injectables for skin or surgery, um, or peptides, which are widely used these days. I use them a lot in my practice. And those things, you kind of would be healthier to think of all those things as like the icing on the cake, that you got to do the fundamentals first, to look at nutrition, to look at hormones, and get those figured out first. And then what's going to happen is, then when you get your aesthetic procedure done, um, it'll be more effective. You'll have a better outcome, less complications. And then, oh, by the way, you'll come back and say, golly, you know what? I got less brain fog. I'm sleeping better. I have more energy. Um, and, you know, who wouldn't love that?
Mr. Todd, you're drinking collagen peptides, but if you're deficient in vitamin C, zinc, or copper, your body can actually use those amino acids to build a new collagen. What's the point of pouring materials if the construction crew is on strike?
Uh, yeah, you have to get that. Yeah, it's a good analogy with building a building. It is looking at these things, and sometimes it requires some lab work once in a while to look at these levels of nutrients um, that are in your plasma, but also the levels of these nutrients that are inside your cells, because there are different amounts in each of these areas, and comparing those and getting all that established, getting that foundation established. You're not going to do any good building a house on quicksand. And so you've got to get that stuff looked at, um, because it's going to make the rest of your life a lot more livable. It's going to make these outcomes better for you.
Vitamins A, D, and E, and K are essential for skin health and healing. If you are low in this, what are your aesthetic results really resting on?
Well, when those are low, you can still get reasonable aesthetic outcomes. It's not that everybody is going to have, um, a very poor outcome from a surgery like that, because some people just are naturally healthier than others. But if you really want the best outcome, whether it is for plastic surgery or orthopedic surgery or general surgery or whatever you're having done, any elective surgery, you're going to have a better outcome. You're going to be more pleased with the outcome. Your surgeon's going to be happy. You're going to have less complications um, if you can optimize all those systems going into the surgery. So it's a big point of it's a big point of the discussions I have with patients every day about trying to let them know that they have control over these situations. That if they do their research, if they stay curious about the body and how to make the body work better, that they'll have a terrific outcome.
Mr. Todd, you can have a perfect hormones and no inflammation, but if you're deficient in the micronutrients required for collagen's synthesis and cellular repair, your result will still suffer. What do you know about what's missing?
Well, it depends on the patient. Again, depends on those lab work and the investigation done on our end to look at things. Patients will. It all kind of boils also down to the aging process with patients, and um, aging isn't bad. Aging is just the accumulation of unaddressed stress and inflammation and metabolic inflexibility. And it's not someone's inevitable destiny to have problems with micronutrients or to have problems with um, skin issues or to require surgery if you get these things looked at before. But the nutrients are critical to that. We know that our food supply is not as healthy as it once was. We know that our soil is not as nutrient dense as it was before. We know, for instance, that most people need to be taking magnesium every day because of the depleted nutrients in our soil. And we know that, furthermore, in a lot of patients, they need some supplementation with vitamin D and vitamin A and vitamin C and zinc. Um, but you also have to be aware that the body, that there are a lot of people who are overusing some supplements. There are people who are overusing antioxidants, for example, and taking high doses of these every day. And that's not healthy in the long run either for the body. Just as low levels can be a problem, constantly taking these things can be a problem for some nutrients, not necessarily magnesium or vitamin D, um, but other nutrients and antioxidants. The body has to experience stress in order to learn how to adapt to stress. It's a concept called hormesis. And so we want the body to intermittently experience some stress to learn how to adapt to that to keep you healthier for longer.
So, Mr. Todd, before we wrap up our discussion for today, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
So I've become very interested in an author over the past few months. His name is Dan Sullivan, and he has a great book out called "Who Not How," and it's a book that promotes a mindset shifting from "How can I do this?" to "Who can I contact to help me with this?" And then the other book is also by him. It's called The Gap and the Gain. And that basically teaches folks to find happiness and success by not um, trying to reach an unattainable goal, but to appreciate the path that got you there, to appreciate the gains that you've made to reach a goal that may be unattainable or way distant in the future, but to appreciate the gains that you've made rather than constantly focusing on what you're missing. Two great books.
Thank you for the recommended books, Mr. Todd. For the long term relationship question, would you rather see a patient every 3 months for diminishing returns or every 12 to 18 months for sustainable research because you optimize their foundation?
Um, I think these days I prefer to see people along the way because the body's intelligent and the research is constantly evolving where we're learning so much every week that I like keeping patients up to date on what the current treatments are out there.
Very well said, Mr. Todd. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101 Review?
No, my point is just if this conversation resonates with anybody, uh, that I encourage listeners to get curious, as I said, about their health, um, ask better questions, look beyond just symptoms, and learn how interconnected the body really is. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Todd, for supporting our questions, and I hope you will be my regular guest. And well, let's talk about something good about your profession itself. So, Mr. Todd, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Modicon people, see you soon.